taught you about foreign gods, prophets who wore robes from deserts far away, and scriptures written in tongues your ancestors never spoke. They told you salvation came from beyond, from books and boats, from names that erased your own. But they never told you that before any of these names arrived, your people already spoke with gods, powerful gods, gods whose names could shake the sky, move rivers, grow forests, and judge kings. They never told you that Igboland was not empty of spirit, but full of it, a land soaked in divine presence, from the tops of the sacred Iroko trees to the depths of the ancestral caves. They didn't tell you about Chukwu, the source behind the stars, or Allah, the earth mother whose very soil is law. They left out Anyanwu, the blazing sun that sees all, and Uhamiri, the goddess who moves through water with wealth and mystery. They silenced Ekwensu, the god of strategy and negotiation, twisting his name into evil. They erased Ahiajoku, who feeds you through yam and rain. They called it paganism. They called it primitive. But what they never called it was powerful. And why? Why erase a pantheon so ancient, so ordered, so wise? Because to conquer a people, you must first conquer their gods. You must make them ashamed of their own divinity. You must turn their altars to ruins and make them kneel before statues that do not carry their blood. Colonization was not just about land, it was a spiritual war. And in that war, the most dangerous enemy was memory. But memory does not die. It hides, it waits, it speaks through dreams and drums, through the names whispered by grandmothers, through the stories carved into masquerades. And now, that memory is rising again. We are remembering the 11 most powerful gods in Igboland, not as fantasy, not as folklore, but as forces. From Chukwu to Ambataku, from Allah to Ekwensu, their stories were never lost. They were buried. But we are digging them up. And when you hear them fully, honestly, completely, you will understand what they feared. This is not myth. This is legacy. This is the true divine history of the Igbo people, from the beginning to now. And this time we're not skipping a single name. In the beginning there was nothing. No sky, no land, no time, only silence. But within that silence was power, infinite, unseen, eternal. And from that silence came a breath. That breath became a word. That word became Chukwu. Not a god in the way the West describes gods, but a force beyond form. The source, the mind, the fire behind creation itself. In Igbo cosmology, Chukwu is not male or female, not light or dark, not near or far. Chukwu is the origin of all dualities, the balance that births all things. Before anything moved, Chukwu was. Chukwu is not worshipped in temples built by men. His temple is the cosmos itself, the sky, the earth, the stars, and the breath that moves through all living things. From Chukwu came Chineke, the aspect of Chukwu that creates, that moves, that shapes. While Chukwu is the mind of the universe, Chineke is the hand. Through Chineke, the world was born, and not born in haste or accident, but in order, through elements, principles, forces, through gods. These gods were not invented. They were revealed. They were expressions of Chukwu's intent, embodiments of divine principles that govern the newly created world. Allah rose as the earth, the place where all would walk and return. Anyanwu blazed in the sky as the sun, keeper of time and truth. Ahiajoku breathed into the yam, ensuring life through harvest. Uhamiri flowed through rivers, whispering secrets and blessings. Ekwensu emerged with speed and strategy, carving the path of war and commerce. Each god was born with purpose, tied to nature, tied to humanity, tied to cosmic law. The early people of Igboland did not see these gods as distant. They saw them everywhere. In the cycle of the moon, in the rustling of the leaves, in the balance between rain and drought, birth and death. They did not fear them as tyrants, nor flatter them like kings. They honored them like ancestors, with respect, with ritual, with reverence. To understand Chukwu is to understand that the universe was never random. It was ordered. It was alive. And that order was maintained through these gods, each with their own domain, their own personality, their own sacred place in the unfolding story of life. The Igbo pantheon is not a hierarchy of power. It is a web of balance. Each deity a thread, each ritual a knot, each name a vibration in the body of Chukwu. And it all began with that first breath, the moment silence became sound, and sound became creation. To speak of Chukwu is to speak of the unspeakable. He is not a god with a face, not a spirit that visits, not a voice that shouts from clouds. He is presence, invisible but absolute. He is the sky before the sky, the fire behind the stars, the root of everything that breathes. In the vast cosmology of the Igbo, Chukwu is the supreme being, the origin of all reality, the one who stands beyond praise yet deserves all reverence. He is the source of destiny, the giver of breath, the judge, whose silence speaks louder than thunder. Yet Chukwu does not act alone. He is too vast, too holy to be directly approached. And so through him flows Chineke, the aspect of Chukwu that moves through the world, that creates, that forms, that speaks. Chineke is not separate from Chukwu, but his visible hand. If Chukwu is the sun that cannot be stared at, Chineke is the light that touches the skin. Through Chineke the trees were shaped. Through Chineke the rivers were carved. Through Chineke the first souls were molded from clay and given chi, the divine spark of personal purpose. Chi is one of the most sacred gifts given by Chineke. It is not just a soul, it is your destiny, your spiritual fingerprint, your invisible twin. Every Igbo person is born with a chi, a fragment of the divine, a personal guide, a divine seed planted within. Through your chi, you are in relationship with Chukwu. Through your chi, your life is shaped, your path revealed, your purpose ignited. And so when the Igbo pray, they do not only call on the gods, they consult their chi, they align with their destiny. Chukwu, through Chineke, gave the world not only life, but order. He did not scatter chaos and watch it swirl. He placed rhythms in the seasons, purpose in the rain, knowledge in the wind. He divided the day into sacred market rhythms, Ike, Ori, Afor, Nkwo, cycles that govern not only trade, but time itself. He infused the land with spirits, the rivers with mothers, the sky with watchers. And then he breathed chi into humanity, making each man and woman not just flesh, but spirit. To worship Chukwu is not to beg. It is to align. It is to remember. It is to walk in harmony with the code that underlies all life. To ignore that code is to fall into chaos. To honor it is to find peace. This is why his name is invoked at the start of all things. Before you call the other gods, you call Chukwu. Before you pour libation, you name him. He is the first breath and the final silence. And even today, though many no longer build his shrines, he is still felt in justice, in rhythm, in every sunrise that begins with his name, Chukwuemeka. God has done well. Allah is not a goddess you worship from a distance. She is beneath your feet, in every handful of soil, in every path you walk, in every grave that holds the bones of your ancestors. In the Igbo spiritual system, Allah is not just the earth. She is the earth. She is the body of the land, the judge of human morality, the mother who nourishes and the one who reclaims. Allah is the most widely worshipped deity in Igboland, and for good reason. Every life begins and ends in her care. She is the law, not because she writes rules, but because she is the law. When an oath is sworn, it is sworn upon Allah. When a crime is committed, it is not only against man, but against her sacred body. Land in Igbo thought is not owned. It is borrowed from Allah. And to mistreat it, to spill innocent blood upon it, to desecrate it with injustice or greed, is to awaken her wrath. That wrath is not always loud. Sometimes it is drought. Sometimes it is barrenness. Sometimes it is silence that cannot be broken. But Ayla is not only punishment, she is fertility, she is abundance, she is the green shoot that rises after the rain, the fruit that ripens in time, the womb that receives, grows, and gives life. Women are especially sacred to her, for they mirror her power. In fact, many spiritual leaders titled women and community judges in traditional Igbo society draw their authority from Allah. They are her voices, her eyes, her guardians. Her symbols are everywhere. The python, revered in many Igbo communities, is her messenger. Never to be harmed, always to be honored. Sacred forests, undisturbed by even the boldest warriors, are her groves. She is invoked in every major ritual, called upon in marriage ceremonies, land settlements, and funeral rites. Because when someone dies, they return to Alabama. She receives them, not with cruelty, but with completion. Children are taught early to respect the earth not as a resource, but as a presence. To spit on it is to insult her. To throw refuse carelessly is to dishonor her. To build without asking permission, through ritual or ancestral consultation, is to build on her body without consent. Allah is balance. She sustains, she restores. She remembers. She is not just the world you live on. She is the sacred force that makes living possible. Without Allah, there is no food, no home, no rest. Without Allah, there is no justice. To walk in righteousness is to walk in step with her. And to be out of step with Allah is to be out of step with life itself. Ahiajoku is not just a god. He is a covenant, a sacred agreement between the earth and the people, between labor and reward, between memory and sustenance. To the Igbo, Ahiajoku is the spirit of Yam. But that is only the beginning. He is the deity who governs agriculture, abundance, harvest, and the spiritual cycle of survival. To honor Ahiajoku is not merely to seek food. It is to acknowledge that life depends on balance, on work done with respect, and on the divine rhythm between sowing and reaping. Yam in Igbo culture is not just a crop. It is the king of crops. It is the first to be planted, the first to be harvested, the one honored in festivals. And behind that yam is Ahiajoku. He is the one who makes the soil fruitful, who guides the rain, who blesses the sweat of the farmer. But he does not give freely to the lazy. Ahiajoku is not a god of handouts. He is a god of reward, generous to those who honor labor, ritual, and time. Every year, the New Yam Festival, Iriji, is celebrated in his name. It is not just a feast, it is a sacred rite. Before any yam is eaten, it is first offered to the ancestors, to the gods, to Ahiajoku. Chiefs and priests lead the rituals, elders speak blessings, drummers call the spirits, and dancers move in rhythm with the heartbeat of the harvest. Only after this sacred act is the yam shared with the people. To eat new yam before offering it is taboo, a sign of disrespect, a break in spiritual order. Ahiajoku also governs time. His domain is the agricultural calendar, a cycle of planting, tending, and harvesting that mirrors the seasons of human life. The farmer who honors Ahiajoku does not fear famine. He understands that the land responds to care, to sacrifice, to gratitude. That food is not just grown, it is called forth through alignment. There was once a time when kings and priests were crowned not in palaces, but in yam barns. Because to rule the people, you had to first honor what fed them. Ahiajoku was invoked before war and peace. before marriage and birth, because food was life and food was his blessing. In many communities, Ahiajoku is also seen as a principle, the force that rewards effort, punishes greed, and remembers discipline. To break his laws is to suffer not just in hunger, but in shame. But to walk in his favor is to see your barn overflow, your children grow strong, your name sung in praise when harvest returns. Ahiajoku is not gone. He lives in every hand that touches the soil with reverence, in every festival drumbeat that calls the ancestors to feast, in every yam broken and shared with joy. He is the God of sweat, the God of soil, the God of the promise that says, if you plant with respect, the earth will feed you back. Anyanwu is the eye that never blinks, the blazing watcher in the sky, the divine judge who sees without question, without delay, without deception. In the cosmology of the Igbo people, Anyanwu is not just the sun. He is the sun as spirit, conscious, burning, sacred. He is the light that reveals all things, the eye of Chukwu sent to the world, the enforcer of justice through visibility. To the ancients, Anyanwu was not just a ball of fire. He was a presence, a force, a god who moved through the sky not as a clock, but as a judge. His rising marked the start of the day not because of convenience, but because of spiritual alignment. His light meant truth. What was done in the presence of Anyanwu was done in the sight of the gods. In many Igbo communities, oaths are sworn before the sun. When words must be weighed, when promises carry the weight of spirit, the sun is called to witness. May the sun strike me if I lie, they say, not as a metaphor, but as a sacred invocation. For Anyanwu does not forgive falsehood, he exposes it, slowly, surely, without emotion. And when he does, there is no shadow left to hide in. Anyanwu governs not just light, but time. He is the keeper of cycles, of morning and night, of planting and reaping, of childhood and elderhood. He moves the world forward, and those who live in harmony with his light find clarity, insight, peace. But those who try to live in lies, to hide, to deceive, they suffer under his heat, for the truth always burns away the fog. Kings, priests, warriors, all paid homage to Anyanwu. Before judgment was rendered, his presence was invoked. Before decisions were made, his light was consulted. His symbol was carved into staffs, drawn on ritual grounds, painted onto masks. He is the one who sees, the one who remembers, the one who never sleeps. But Anyanwu is not only judgment, he is also vitality. He gives life to the crops, strength to the bones, rhythm to the seasons. Without him, the world would freeze, time would stall, crops would wither. He is fire, but he is also breath. Even today, when the sun rises, the elders say, Anyanwu Igwala. The sun has not permitted it. His permission means life. His denial means exposure. He does not speak in thunder or dream. He speaks in presence. He does not chase you. He waits for you to come into the light. To live under Anyanwu is to walk in truth. To break your oath under his gaze is to invite a fire that no water can cool. Uhamiri, or Ohamiri, is not a goddess you approach casually. She does not live in temples made of stone or wait in the corners of rituals built on fear. She is water. She is presence. She is wealth wrapped in mystery, beauty cloaked in power. In the sacred rivers of Igboland, particularly the waters of Oguta, she waits, not as myth, but as reality. Those who know, know. Those who've seen her say her skin glows like the moonlight on still water, her voice soft, but echoing like waves on granite. She is the divine feminine, enchanting, commanding, never forgotten. Uhamiri is the goddess of wealth, but not the kind you hoard in vaults or bury under the earth. Her wealth flows, it moves. It surrounds those who honor her, lifting them in ways money alone cannot. Traders seek her favor. Women pray to her for beauty, fertility, and inner power. Men fear her, not because she is evil, but because she cannot be controlled. Uhamiri gives, but she chooses who. And when she gives entirely, but she also takes. There are tales, whispered with awe and caution, of those who saw her in dreams, who were visited at riversides, who were seduced by her presence and forever changed. Some returned with gifts, wealth, clarity. Others returned with madness, obsession, or were never seen again. This is not because Uhamiri is cruel. It is because she is truth. And truth, like water, cannot be grasped by force. She must be honored, respected, flowed with, not against. In Igbo tradition, she is the wife of wealth, the mother of secrets, the queen of the spiritual realm beneath the rivers. She is associated with mirrors, because to look into one is to see not only your reflection, but your spirit. She is linked with white, purity, sacredness, untouched power. Her priestesses wear white. Her altars are surrounded by water. Her name is often whispered rather than spoken aloud. She is both healer and judge. She gives fertility, but also demands spiritual cleanliness. She brings beauty, but despises pride. She can give you dreams of gold and visions of royalty, but if you dishonor her, she turns away. And when she turns, blessings dry like shallow streams. In many places, she is confused with Mami Wata, but she is older, deeper, rooted in Igboland, not imported from foreign tales. She is Uhamiri, spirit of the water, mother of mystery, goddess of wealth that flows through spirit before it ever touches hand. To seek her favor, you must first seek your own purity. For Uhamiri gives not to the greedy, but to the aligned. She is the river that flows beneath your soul, beautiful, dangerous, divine. Ik is more than a name. It is a rhythm, a law, a cycle that underlies the very breath of Igbo existence. To speak of Ik is to speak of time itself, not the time measured by clocks or calendars, but the time marked by spirit. Ik is one of the 4 sacred market days in Igbo cosmology. Ik, Ori, Afor, Nkwo. But Ik is more than just a day to trade goods. It is a spiritual marker, a pulse in the divine calendar that shapes everything from destiny to ritual. Those born on Ik are believed to carry specific energies, insight, depth, wisdom, and often the burden of truth. They are known to be mirrors, people who reveal things without trying, whose presence causes others to face their truth. But Ik is also a spirit, a living presence tied to the sacred serpent, the cosmic force of transformation and divine knowledge. The serpent in Igbo thought is not a symbol of evil. It is sacred. It represents the cycle of death and rebirth, of shedding skin, of wisdom gained through silence and vision. The python, particularly, is a messenger of the gods. In many parts of Igboland, harming a python is not only taboo, it is a spiritual crime. Because to touch the serpent is to touch a living spirit of Ike. Ike governs the sacred markets, not only the exchange of goods, but the exchange of energy. The market is not merely a place to buy and sell. It is a spiritual arena, a place where destinies collide, where gossip turns into prophecy, where blessings are exchanged in the form of coin and conversation. On Ike Day, the air feels different. The ancestors walk more closely. The veil thins, spirit speaks. Those who understand the power of Iki never take it lightly. Rituals are timed to its rhythm, initiations are planned around it. Diviners consult Ike days when interpreting the fate of a newborn, when choosing a spouse, when burying the dead. To ignore Ik is to ignore the divine rhythm of the world. Ik is both beginning and return. It is the serpent circling its own tail. It is the marketplace of the soul. And it reminds us that life is not a straight line. It is a sacred cycle. To walk in harmony with Ik is to walk with clarity. To walk against it is to walk into confusion. Agbala is not a name you speak lightly. It is not shouted. It is whispered, echoed, respected, feared. For Agbala is not just a god. Agbala is a voice, the voice of justice, the voice of spirit, the voice that pierces the veil between the seen and the unseen. In the heart of ancient Igbo spirituality, Agbala is the oracle, the divine mouth through which truth speaks without apology. The most famous sanctuary of Agbala was found in the sacred grove of Chukwu, a dark, deep cave shrouded in vines, silence, and myth. It was here that kings bowed, warriors trembled, and even priests stood still. For within that cave, the voice of Agbala would speak, not through thunder, not through spectacle, but through chosen mediums. Often women, priestesses, carriers of sacred lineage who entered trance and became vessels for the god. Agbala's role was clear: judgment. When oaths were broken, Agbala was called. When crimes went unpunished, Agbala saw. When injustice burned like fire through a village, it was to Agbala that the people turned, not for comfort, but for clarity. The oracle did not flatter. The oracle did not lie. Agbala spoke only what was true, whether it pleased the listener or destroyed their pride. Those accused of serious crimes were brought to the shrine. They passed through rituals, questioned, stripped of falsehood. Some emerged vindicated, others never returned. It is said that in the presence of Agbala, even the bones of the ancestors spoke. Even silence had weight. But Agbala was not just a tool of punishment. The oracle was also a healer, a seer, a counselor. Families visited to seek guidance. Communities asked about the seasons, about omens, about the timing of war or peace. In this way, Agbala preserved balance, not with violence, but with vision. The oracle reminded the people that power must be checked, that every soul would answer for its actions. In traditional thought, Agbala is also seen as a genderless force, beyond male, beyond female, beyond human limitation. A pure spiritual presence, a mirror that reflects exactly what stands before it. That's why the word Agbala came in time to be used in multiple contexts, not because of weakness, but because of spiritual ambiguity, power that transcends form. Even now, in quiet places where the sacred still hums, there are those who feel Agbala's presence, in dreams, in sudden clarity, in moments when lies collapse and truth stands alone. Agbala is not gone. He never leaves. He is the cave of justice, the breath of prophecy, the truth you cannot silence. There are places in Igboland where the trees do not allow noise, where the ground is soft with memory and the air is thick with presence. These are not just forests, they are groves, sacred spaces where mortals walk carefully and spirits dwell unseen. At the center of this untamed sanctuary is Ogwugwu, the spirit of the forest, the keeper of secrets, the force of death, rebirth, and hidden power. Ogwugwu is not a god who lives in the sky or speaks from a distant throne. Ogwugwu is rooted in the land, in the oldest trees, the damp soil, the sacred herbs that cure and curse. He is not a deity you summon lightly. He is wild. He is ancient. He is the protector of what is untamed in the soul and the world. His groves are not to be entered without permission, not to be desecrated by pride or foolishness. In many parts of Igboland, women serve as the primary custodians of Ogwugwu's power, not in weakness, but in strength. They guard his groves, prepare his offerings, speak his name in chants passed down through generations. For Ogwugwu is deeply connected to feminine energy, not because he is female, but because he governs the cycles of nature, fertility, decay, transformation. And women, being the vessels of life and blood, stand closest to that rhythm. Ogwugwu is invoked during times of serious imbalance, when curses must be broken, when justice has failed, when healing requires confrontation with ancestral forces. His power lies in both destruction and restoration. He is feared because he is exact, honored because he is effective, loved because he is loyal to truth. He is also the god of sacred medicines. Herbalists and traditional healers often work under his guidance. They consult him when concocting powerful remedies, when communing with plant spirits, when entering trance to diagnose spiritual illness. For in the forest all things exist: poison and cure, danger and protection, death and rebirth. Ogwugwu teaches that not all answers come from light. Some must be found in shadow. That rebirth is not possible without decay. That transformation does not happen on clean altars, but in wild places where leaves rot, spirits walk, and the soul must face its rawest truth. He is the god of the wild spirit, the echo in the forest, the whisper that heals and haunts. To know Ogwugwu is to accept that not all gods are polished. Some are covered in leaves, and some carry the medicine that the world has forgotten. When thunder roars across the skies of Igboland, shaking roofs and splitting trees, the elders do not just hear noise. They hear a name, Igwala. It means the sky is greater, but it is more than a name. It is a reminder, a warning, a judgment. Igwala is the deity of thunder, lightning, war, and divine justice. He is not a spirit to be summoned with soft words. He is not a god who whispers. He arrives with force, brilliant, blinding, undeniable. Igwala is the enforcer of cosmic order. While Chukwu is the silent lawgiver, Igwala is the hammer. When oaths are broken and lies are wrapped in ritual, he strikes. When someone swears falsely on the name of the gods, it is Igwala who answers. Not with questions, but with consequences. His lightning is not chaos, it is evidence. His thunder is not rage, it is verdict. In many villages, shrines to Igwala are built with open sky. No roof can contain him. Offerings are laid before iron, stone, and sacred wood, symbols of unbreakable truth. His priests are often men of immense spiritual discipline, warriors in spirit, chosen not for their gentleness, but for their ability to carry divine fire without being consumed. Igwala is also the spirit of sacred war. Not war for conquest, but for justice. He moves with warriors who fight to protect their land, their people, their laws. He is not reckless. He is not easily pleased. He does not reward bloodlust. He rewards honor, courage, truth. In ancient times, before going to war, the people would consult Igwala through his priests. If he approved, the storm would speak. If not, even the bravest knew to stay their hand. His presence is not just in the sky, but in iron. Blacksmiths honor him. Drummers call him with rhythms that mimic the heartbeat of thunder. Hunters whisper his name when entering sacred forests. Children are warned not to curse beneath a storm. For Igwala hears all, but above all, he is the god of oaths. To break a promise under his watch is to challenge the sky itself. And the sky does not forget. In a world that fears lies more than wounds, Igwala stands as the great revealer, the lightning that cuts through fog, the thunder that shakes masks from faces. He is not cruel, he is clear. And when he comes, he does not knock, he strikes. Say the name Ekwensu today, and many will shiver, not in reverence, but in fear. To most, Ekwensu is the devil, the Igbo version of Satan, the liar, the enemy of peace. But this was not always so. Before colonizers came with their holy books and fearful eyes, before missionaries erased gods and replaced them with demons, Ekwensu was not evil. He was essential. In the original Igbo cosmology, Ekwensu was the spirit of negotiation, war, conflict, and strategy. He was not worshipped as a destroyer, but respected as a force of sacred disruption. When two communities reached deadlock, when a decision required boldness, when a warrior prepared for battle, it was Ekwensu they consulted, not because he brought madness, but because he brought options. He brought risk, cleverness, and the energy needed to move forward when others feared to act. He is the trickster, yes, but trickster does not mean traitor, it means transformer. Ekwensu moves between worlds. He plays with opposites. He teaches through inversion. He is the shadow that forces the light to define itself. He is the challenge that tests your spirit, the deal maker in the divine council, the spark in the storm. So what happened? Why was Ekwensu turned into a devil? When the missionaries came, they encountered a being that did not fit into their binary, neither purely good nor easily controlled. Ekwensu's unpredictability, his association with war, his mastery of words and power of persuasion, all these threatened the tidy narrative of heaven and hell, and so they demonized him. They took the god of negotiation and labeled him a liar. They took the force of strategic warfare and called him wicked. They could not understand Ekwensu, so they condemned him. But the elders remember, in secret stories, in buried rituals, in the coded names still whispered, Ekwensu's true nature survives. He is not chaos for its own sake. He is the necessary rebel, the spirit who breaks what must be broken, the one who shows that peace without truth is not peace at all. Ekwensu does not bless cowards. He walks with those who dare, to speak the hard word, to challenge the unjust, to risk loss for gain. He is the god of crossroads, of clever tongues, of warriors who fight not for glory, but for necessity. He is not the devil, he is balance. To honor Ekwensu is not to invite destruction. It is to honor change, movement, and the fire that forges new beginnings. Ambataku is not a god who speaks in riddles. He announces himself with presence, with movement, with power. In the ancient Igbo pantheon, Ambataku stands as the spirit of masculine strength, wealth, and aggressive progress, a force not only of war, but of protection, ambition, and conquest. Unlike other deities cloaked in mystery or silence, Ambataku is direct. He is the pounding of the chest, the sharpening of the blade, the roar before battle. But he is not reckless violence. His energy is focused, strategic, purposeful. Where Ekwensu negotiates with cleverness, Ambataku moves with command. He is the one you invoke when stakes are high, when the challenge is great, and when fear must be cast aside. Traditionally, warriors, hunters, traders, and protectors called on Ambataku. His name was whispered before setting out on long journeys, before defending the village, before entering the marketplace, not just to buy and sell, but to dominate. He is the spirit of male confidence, not rooted in arrogance, but in certainty. His presence affirms that wealth is a right, but only when pursued with strength, discipline, and spiritual alignment. Ambataku governs not only the battlefield, but the boardroom of ancient commerce. He blesses hard work, bold risk, calculated strength. He despises laziness. He does not honor excuses. He gives to those who act. His offerings are not passive prayers. They are poured in sweat, in sacrifice, in real-world effort, backed by spiritual intention. But his power must be respected. Like fire, it gives warmth or it burns. Those who invoke Ambataku for selfish gain without respect for spiritual law often find themselves overwhelmed, crushed by the very energy they cannot control. Because Ambataku is not a tool. He is a presence. He answers to no man. He moves only where purpose calls him. In Igbo masculinity, Ambataku represents the protector, the provider, the builder, not the oppressor. His power is not to dominate others, but to uplift one's house, family, and lineage through courage, strategy, and unwavering discipline. To walk with Ambataku is to walk with your chest forward, your eyes clear, and your hands never idle. He is the spirit of kings, warriors, fathers, and traders who know that divine wealth is earned, not just inherited. He does not reward talk, he rewards action. There was a time when every child in Igboland knew the names of the gods, not from books, but from living breath, from songs sung while farming, from chants whispered under moonlight, from stories told by fire, passed down from ancestor to child. These gods, Chukwu, Allah, Ekwensu, Anyanwu, Uhamiri, Ogwugwu, and the rest, were not symbols. They were family. They walked in the land. They lived in the rivers. They judged. They blessed. They taught. And then silence fell. It began with ships, with crosses held high, with flags planted in sacred ground. The colonizers did not just come for land or gold. They came for the soul. They came with fear wrapped in scripture, with missionaries who looked upon drums and shrines and saw only darkness. They did not understand what they saw, so they called it evil. They did not hear the wisdom, so they called it madness. They did not feel the presence, so they burned it. The oracles were silenced. The priests were mocked. The sacred groves were cut down, their spirits displaced. The python, once honored as Allah's messenger, was killed without remorse. Women who held spiritual authority were labeled witches. Gods were renamed demons. The names of the deities were erased from the mouths of the children and replaced with verses that did not carry their blood. Entire generations were taught to fear what once protected them. Shrines were replaced by churches, festivals were criminalized, ancestral prayers were forbidden. And the gods, once living forces in everyday life, were turned into shadows, half-remembered myths that people dared not speak in public. But the greatest wound was not physical, it was psychological. The colonizers made the people ashamed of their own gods. They planted guilt in the soil of tradition. They broke the spiritual line that connected child to ancestor, priest to prophecy, river to goddess. They did not just erase the gods, they taught the people to erase themselves. The silence that followed was not peace, it was suppression. Beneath that silence, the gods waited. They were never destroyed, they cannot be. They were only buried, beneath fear, beneath shame, beneath stolen memory. But even buried, they whispered. And now those whispers are rising. The silence is breaking, slowly, powerfully, not in anger, but in rhythm, not with swords, but with songs. Across villages and cities, across oceans and continents, the names are being spoken again. Chukwu, Ali Ekwensu, Ogwugwu, Uhamiri. The gods of Igboland are not returning, they never left. We are the ones returning. We are the ones who are finally ready to listen. You see it in the rise of traditional altars in the young who ask their grandparents for the real stories. You see it in the festivals being reborn, in the sacred trees being spared, in the oracles beginning to speak again. You see it in the healing work of herbalists who no longer hide, in the chants that have been passed down in secret, now sung boldly. The gods are rising not through force, but through memory. This is not nostalgia, this is restoration, a spiritual recalibration of a people whose roots were not broken, only buried. For every shrine that was burned, a grove still stands. For every story erased, a dream remains. For every name forgotten, a soul still remembers. And now, across Igboland and beyond, the children of the ancestors are waking up. Not to reject what they've been taught, but to remember what was stolen. The gods are not angry. They are waiting. They are patient. But they are present. They are speaking through dreams, through intuition, through the drumbeat that calls the bones to rise. They are reminding us that African spirituality is not superstition. It is science, philosophy, ecology, cosmology, history, and soul. It is not against progress. It is the blueprint of balance. This is the time of return, a time when Igbo youth reclaim the stories without shame, a time when names once feared are worn like crowns, a time when divinity is not outsourced, but brought home. The gods never needed temples, they needed memory, and now the memory is alive again. If this story has awakened something deep in your spirit, something older than fear and louder than shame, do not let it fade. Like this video, share it, subscribe, speak these names, honor your chi. The gods are not myths, they are mirrors, and when you remember them, they will remember you.